Canada's own Emmy Award-winning William Shatner. Yes! He spent more than 7 decades in front of the camera. He comes right out. You know him as the square-jawed Captain James T. Kirk. Put it together.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Where to begin? So, I'm Canadian, you know that, right? Tell that to Trump. So, I don't know where to begin. Usually, you know, I'll have a story or ask somebody to ask me a question or something. But I feel so nostalgic because, so I was born in Montreal and went to school. You can do it. What? Give the little scream there. So I went to McGill and graduated, barely. No, I think I have the pleasure or the reputation of graduating with the least amount of points. I mean, I think I was like in the 50s, but 50 points. I mean, it was like 1 degree I would have failed McGill, my 4 years in McGill. I wouldn't have graduated. And I just took a bunch of courses at the end and I passed them and barely, because I was interested at university. I was interested in doing the college musical, which is the Red, White, and Blue, and I wrote and directed and acted and theater and the musicals and radio. I was part of a coterie of players who, the CBC in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, I don't think Halifax, but nobody thinks about Halifax. And well, it's true, it's way up the coast. It's damp and cold. I shot film there, and I shot film in Halifax in a warehouse that had no heat in the middle of winter. So we're playing a scenes in an interior of the house, and our breath was like showing, hi, I love you, and the steam would come out of my mouth. And, well, it just meant passion, I guess. So. I was part of a coterie of Montreal actors who played on Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's CBC radio drama. So I did all that, and out of Montreal. And then when I graduated, after a summer theater in Montreal at the park there, they asked me to come to Ottawa. In those years, they had the Canadian Repertory Theatre, the CRT, out of Ottawa, maybe the only professional theatre in Canada, and I was part of the company for 3 years, where we played in a high school theater and doing a play every night, and during the day rehearsing another play, and then on a Tuesday, I suppose, we would open another play and then begin rehearsal on the next play. I did that for 3 years, intermingled with going to Toronto and becoming part of the CBC coterie of players here, and Montreal Radio won all kinds of Peabody Awards, great awards for broadcasting in those years for radio drama. Canada was known in the 50s and 60s of, what century was that? As being a great radio power. I'm trying to remember the guy's name, McDonald or something. It was a Mick something who was the great producer of radio drama that Canada, John Draney. Does anybody remember the name of John Draney? I'm going to tell you how ephemeral fame is. John Draney was the radio actor. He did everything. John Draney's name was known like, I don't know, what's her name going with the football player? What's her name? Taylor Swift. John Draney was a radio actor with this great voice, and he was on everything. And he was the what's her name? I'm not that out of it, but I don't remember names. So, like her, he was extraordinarily popular, and nobody knows his name because he's dead a long time. And so when I'm asked about legacy, you know, what is your legacy? There's no such thing as legacy. Everybody forgets, and the only legacy anybody has is doing a good deed, and that good deed reverberates for, like the butterfly wings and well, you know, they tear down the statues, they take the names off of buildings, or they put the names on. In my case, at McGill, after I barely passed, they put my name on the Student Union building. So it was the William Shatner Student Union building. Oh, really? I didn't know anything about it. And then I asked, somebody said, oh, you know, I just went to McGill. And I said, is my name still on the building? And he didn't know. So that's fame for you. And then from the Canadian Repertory Theatre, I came to Toronto. And I lived in Toronto for several years. And you could have the demarcation of when I came and when I left was all these apartment buildings that are downtown. They look like, I don't know, they look like, what's it called that fastens onto whales? The barnacle. We got these barnacle apartment buildings attaching itself to Toronto here. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Well, they stand so, how can they stand that tall without falling over? I was shooting something in a parking lot in downtown Toronto years ago, and the guy, I don't know what he did, but he sounded official. He said, all those glass windows that are in those buildings and in the CNN Tower were built to last 50 years, and they put them in before all the buildings began to surround them. They put them in the windows in by helicopter, and now they've been programmed to last 50 years. And 55 years is up, and the glass is falling out of all those buildings. And it's not funny. Who's laughing? And that's Toronto is, from the time I lived here, there were parks. You know, you could get on what's the freeway here, the 401? The Gardner? You could get on the Gardner in those days? I mean, what happened? The buildings of tens of thousands of people are living downtown, and there's no plan. You can't get on the Gardner. You can't, is that the Gardner? You can't get on the Gardner. You gotta go up to Eglinton or something or other. It's the darndest thing, there's no plan. It's just awful. And I mourn the old Toronto. In any case, I came to Toronto, and I was very poor. I lived in a 5-flight walk-up, and so nobody went up there except me and the mice. Well, it's true. I would get up there late at night, go to sleep on that rope mattress, get up as early as I could, get out, and the mice came and played during the day, and then when I came back to my room, they went under my bed or something. They disappeared. And it was very hard living. I wasn't making enough money to do anything, which included eating. And so there was a restaurant, and I can't remember the name of the street. What was the name of the street that the CBC was on years ago? Jarvis. Okay. Now, Jarvis. So we all know Jarvis Street. The CBC's no longer on Jarvis, right? Is the office still there? Is there still a building there? No, you don't know. Name me, so Jarvis goes north and south, right? What's the next street over? Church. Good. And what's the one next over from church? What is it?
No, that's the other way.
There was a hotel and a restaurant named after the street. It was the hotel named on that street. 2 or 3. What? No. It's like Giroir or something. What? It doesn't matter. Why am I wasting time trying to remember a name that nobody can remember? Because the hotel was the hotel, whatever the street was. And the sign on the hotel was dinner was all you can eat for whatever, $1 or $2. So it was packed. I mean, it was a cafeteria. That's when I ate. I would go in and it would be the meal of the day and I'd sit there and eat. And then at 8 o'clock in the evening, that restaurant closed. And next in the lobby, the next door over, was the bar, big bar. And it opened at 8 o'clock. And the hotel became a brothel. I kid you not. The ladies of the night all conglomerated in the bar and meet their Johns, go upstairs for the few minutes they went up, and they'd come back down and come at the bar until the next guy came along. And so I would eat at this one place for $1 or $2, and then it would close, and I didn't know anybody in Toronto. So I'd go over to the bar, and I'd sit at a table, and the girls would come and sit at the table. Hi, Bill. Oh, excuse me, they'd say, I gotta leave. And she'd leave for 15, 20, a half an hour. Then she'd come back and say, where was I again? And we had conversations, and there was, 3 or 4 ladies who befriended me, and we'd sit at the table and talk about anything. And there was one girl, I've forgotten her name, and I've forgotten what she looks like so many years ago. She became my friend. And she was the only one I knew in Toronto. This poverty-stricken actor trying to knock on the CBC doors and eventually ending up at Stratford. But the months I spent at this hotel eating for $1 or $2 and going over and having somebody to talk to, even though they were the ladies of the night, and they'd leave the convent school. I'm so sorry, I've got to go. And they'd go, and then they'd come back, and we'd continue. Then I joined Stratford. Second year of Stratford, I became an actor at Stratford, and I stayed 3 years. And during that time, there was a beautiful young lady who they had a what do you call it, a fence, but with a laced fence, like a storm fence, around the entrance to where the actors came into the theater. And there was this beautiful girl clinging to the fence, looking, and hello, and I began a conversation with that girl, eventually married Gloria. So she would come from Toronto to Stratford every so often, and hello, Gloria, and then when she left, I would, during the days she wasn't there, I would call her on a payphone. I didn't know it at the time, but I was told later by the operator. So in those days, they had an operator, either in Toronto, probably at Stratford, at Stratford, with that kind of switchboard where they plug you in. So you put your coins in, yes, I'd like to, and they would dial the number for you, and then they put the cord in the thing, and I would talk to Gloria for as long as I could afford it on the phone from Stratford to Toronto. I found out years later that the operator somehow would connect me with Gloria, but they were listening in to my conversation with the girl I eventually married. And I didn't know that at the time, but there came a time when I didn't even have any coins. And the operator said, that's all right. And she connected. And it was the result of that operator that I was able to woo the lady who became my wife and the mother of my 3 kids. So, Stratford, I got really, I got taken under the wing of, what's the name of the director? The great director.
Tyrone Guthrie.
Tyrone Guthrie. So Tyrone Guthrie took me under his wing. I actually eventually won the Tyrone Guthrie Award for the most promising, I don't know, Shakespearean actor or something, whatever it was. But Mr. Guthrie and I bonded. And he was the one that said when you're going to think I'm insane. I can't think of the, what's the name of the great classical Canadian actors now dead? What? Christopher Plummer, thank you so much. So Chris Plummer was playing Henry V, see? Not totally insane. So Henry V, and when you came in, you sat around the stage, they assigned you understudy. So Tyrone Guthrie said, all right, Shatner, you're understudying Henry V. And what we did at Stratford in those years, I presume still, but I don't know, you would begin rehearsals, say, for Henry V. And you were assigned the understudy role, which meant you had to learn the words and learn what the actor did and be prepared to do what the actor did. But we would do the play at night and rehearse the next play during the day. There was no time for understudy rehearsals. So it was, yeah, we'll rehearse, we're gonna open 3 or 4 plays, so that's 3 or 4 months, and 2 or 3 months, and in 2 or 3 months we'll get rehearsals for the understudies. So Guthrie says, you're understudying Henry V. You're gonna understudy him. So, wow, okay. So the tendency would have been, okay, I get 3 or 4 months to learn the words, once more onto the breach, once more onto the, but it didn't work out that way. Something, some intuition, some instinct, some gods of the drama sitting on my shoulder said, you better learn the words. You better learn the words. So every night I'd go back to my threadbare room in Stratford and I'd rehearse my words. I began to learn the words to Henry V during the rehearsals of Henry V. I didn't have a chance to see where he went, what his choreography was, because I was playing something, the brother or something, to Henry V. So the play opens. Critics great. He's lauded. Great new Henry V. And we were open about a week and beginning rehearsals for another play when Guthrie comes up to me and says, Chris is ill. Can you go on? Can I go on? I don't even know the name of the actors. I don't know how to get to my room. What do you mean go on? Well, Bill, he's sick. He's got kidney stones. Can you go on tonight? Can I go on tonight? He didn't know that I had been practicing in my room. I'd sit on the toilet and flush the toilet. Whenever the big, once more onto the breach, dear friends, and I'd flush the toilet. So nobody in the apartment building would hear me. Or they would hear me and say, oh, well, Shatner's going to the toilet again. I don't know what it was, but this instinct, I can contribute, I can blame nothing but some intuition. I learned the words. And Guthrie is saying, can you go on? And I'm this stupid young actor, 22, 23 years old. And I said, yes, Mr. Guthrie, I can go on. He said, well, you're on tonight. So that night, I got into Chris's wardrobe. I don't know if any of you have been to Stratford. If you haven't, you're missing something. That's about as many as you should be. And there's a thrust stage. It isn't like this. It's like out there, so it's like there. So a lot of the action is like out there, so you can see everything. The stage manager, who has a script, is back here. He can't help me. He can't say, yes, once more, and say once more again, Bill. No help. So I go on. And I have no idea what Chris was doing, whether he was standing or sitting. Much later, Christopher Plummer said, oh, Shatner didn't do anything I did. When I stood, he sat. When I sat, he stood. I didn't tell him. And I think I did later on. I didn't know what he did. I was just sitting or standing. I was sitting because I was tired. I don't know. But I got through the play. In fact, I got through the point where all the declamatory speeches were over. And I've forgotten the words now, but there was 4 or 5, Shakespeare had written a patriotic play for Queen Elizabeth, and the play was a paean of praise for the English, once more onto the beach, and soldiers and patriotic people loved the play. And then it's like a coda at the end where there's a French princess and the king flirts with the French princess, which I think he married at one point. In any case, the play has great drama and then it just slides slowly, lovingly to an end. But that's easy, except I forgot. I'm now looking at the audience, like yours, by 10 times more people, and the critics were still there, and I'm looking on, and like I have blocked on Chris Plummer's name, and just you block on names. I never could remember Ben Folds, with whom I made an album, until I go, Ben Folds, and now I don't remember his name. It's called Identic or something, memory. So I'm now blankly looking at the theater. There's a pause. The girls, the princesses have gone off, and I know the character has to do something, but what is it? So I look across the stage and I see the guy, the actor, playing my part, which is the brother to King Henry. And this is the guy. I think his name was Don Cherry. That's the name that comes to me. It probably wasn't Don Cherry, but who the hell cares, right? So Don Cherry is there, who in rehearsal, he had a photographic memory. Instead of the first assistant reading the words, what's the word again? And he'd read it in rehearsal. Don Cherry would know every word of every character. And he's playing my brother. So as Henry V, I walk over, you know? And Don Cherry sees me coming. And I say, what do I say? And Don Cherry looks at me. Exactly like that. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be over there. Oh, look at it, thanks. No help there. And as I walk back, that goddess of drama whispered in my ear the words, and the words came to me, and there I was. I played the rest of the scene, and the curtain came, well, the lights went down, and that was the end of it. I had done a play in front of 2,500 people and critics who were very kind the next day. I have no memory. It was like being in battle. I have no memory of any of those things except people told me I did it. So, whether it was that year or the next year, we took a play down to Broadway from Stratford, I think it was played by Marlowe. And anyway, I was given a good part, and I played it well, and the critics noticed me, and in effect, my American career started as a result of the play that Stratford took down to New York, to Broadway for a limited run, and the director had taken a liking to me, and my career as an actor in America started as a result of all those accidents. And then I just wanted to finish the story of that lovely lady of the night who befriended me. So now I'm going to get married to Gloria. And the season at Stratford's over. I'm back living in Toronto, and my future in-laws and my future wife and I had gone to a movie theater, and we came out of the movie theater. It's about 11 o'clock, so it's dark. And just a fringe of lights like these lighting up where you come out, like the sidewalk where the box office is. It's about this size. And we come out, oh, that's a good movie, it's a good movie. And I look over there, and there's that lady of the night. I've forgotten her name. There, she just stepped out of the darkness, and she was walking the streets. And she steps out into the light. I see her. And she sees me with my future wife and my in-laws. And I'm stricken. I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to go over there and kiss her on the cheek and say, hi, it's been so long, how are you? Because she was painted and, and she looked like a lady of the street. Because she was a lady of the street. She was a prostitute. She was a whore. And I see her. And she sees me and she walks along here. And I'm following her. They don't know what I'm doing. I'm mesmerized. What's the next step? What's going to happen? And when she gets to the edge of the light there, she turns around and looks at me. And the look, I've forgotten what she looked like. I wouldn't recognize her now. I don't know her name. I think she's lost in time, except for the look. And the look was one of love and reproachment. Like, I understand you. She said everything in this look. She turned and looked and she said, I understand you're ashamed of me. And I understand you're being ashamed of me. And thank you for everything you've done. And goodbye. And she turned and walked. And I've never seen her since. I don't know who she is. But it taught me so much about other people and my own shame. What should I have done? What could I have done? What could I have done? I don't know. I mean, the gallant thing would have been to rush over and say, oh my gosh, it's good to see you. Thank you. Here's $20. I don't know. But it's something, I mean, I don't remember much of that experience of going on for Henry V. I remember fitting into the uniform, and I remember like being fearful and brave at the same time, confident and brave. It must be like a Canadian soldier in Dieppe or something going into shore. They're afraid they're going to die, and yet there's pride. I don't know, but that moment with that lady and that moment at Stratford is part of my Toronto experience. I have told that story in the past, not quite like I just did to you, the Toronto audience, but I feel it so deeply because I've told it in detail now, and I'm remembering the feelings. Don't even remember the name of the movie theater, but it was on Jarvis Street, I'm sure. Wow, that was a youthful lesson in humility, in passion, in understanding other people's feelings. You know, I did, as my life went on in the United States and I got popular and I did various things. One of the fun things, well, everything I did was fun to one degree or another, but I did an interview show called I Don't Understand. And it's everything, because I don't understand anything. And so I would get people on the show with any subject and say, I don't understand what you do. What exactly, how did you, where did you? And I discovered in that show something that I must have understood but never quite brought it to consciousness, and that is everybody's got a story. Everybody has a life in here that's their own and that is precious, and if you work it right, they want to tell it, or they don't want to tell it, but they will tell it because it's screaming to get out. This is my truth. No matter how educated or uneducated, no matter how done they are by life and how hopeless and helpless and fearful it is for them to be alive, that story still is there. That story, it needs to be told for them, and for them to tell it with their truth is like seeing something beautiful that's never been exposed before, a flower that was never there. I was talking to a archaeologist not so long, a few days ago, and he was talking about something he had discovered that he had brushed aside, and there it was, a skull that was a Denisovan, who nobody knows about, the primitive man, and I was looking at it, and it was something so beautiful. As an archaeologist, it spoke to him of history and of mankind, and those stories that people tell you that are embedded in them, that they wish to tell, they're there for everybody to talk about. Tell me your story. It doesn't need a microphone, it just needs pure interest. And that was one of the fun things that I did on a show. I did one of the shows, here's an example. So there was a well-known personality, if I mentioned his name, you would know it. And he came on the show. And I'm talking to him about, yeah, but I mean, behind all that, what, you've got kids, and you're Catholic, you brought them up Catholic, yeah, and religion, yeah, religion. And then I don't remember how I got him talking about it. But a child was born to him that was not right, that was afflicted mentally, and he was so crazed, so angry at God for giving him this child that would never live a normal life that we call normal, that he forgot all of his very deep Catholic upbringing, and he started going to shamans, to people who would light fires and do firecrackers or whatever to try and bring spirit into this child. And it never worked. And he not only was now suffering from not being able to help his child, he was going against all the teachings of thou shalt not have other gods. So he's doubly afflicted. And he's telling me this. And it's like a beautiful story, but it's a revelation that nobody had ever seen before. And then time was over, thank you so much. And then he leaves, and there was somebody else. And so that somebody else took a half an hour. That's over, and there's a phone call. And it's that guy. And he's calling me from the car. And he's saying, Bill, I'm thinking it over. Please don't release that story. I'm so ashamed of it. I'm so embarrassed, both for my child and for what I did. Please don't let it go out into public. And it's a great story. It's like a revelation. And we've never let it go. It hides somewhere, I don't know where it is, but it's probably erased because it made this gentleman I was acquainted with feel so badly, I let it go. But it's those stories that are inside people that to me are just like jewels to understand people. Interesting, huh? Yeah. Okay. I want you to know, WilliamShatner.com, I'm doing two things that I'd like you to at least know about, and you'll understand that participation in it would be interesting. A gentleman I've been working with, a writer that I've been working with, and I had an idea of a book in which you would be the subject of the book, your stories, your connection to me or to Star Trek or to anything that I've done, and talk to you about that kernel of truth that may be inside you. So I personally can't obviously do all the interviews, but if you wish to be a part of the book and have an interesting story of your connection to any of the things I've done or me, go to WilliamShatner.com. You'll see the book. I forgot what we've entitled it. Me and You or something like that. What is it? What? William Shatner and You. That's the title. How did you know that? Yeah. So, William Shatner and You. So, go to, I keep saying my name, I can't stand it. Well, I've been working with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. So, he's a great guy and obviously a brilliant mind on. But to say Neil deGrasse Tyson 3 times in a row is so pedantic. It's Neil deGrasse Tyson. But Neil is not, and you can't call him Tyson because Tyson's here. He's the boxer. So I call him Neil, and we've had some fun. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, I don't know why I brought him up. But I've got a story that I want to tell you about. But the other aspect of what I want to tell you is, I did a one-man show on Broadway some years ago, and I toured it. Well, actually, the story is this. Somebody in Australia calls me and says, I read your book, and there's a show in there. All the stories are told. Why don't you do a one-man show? And I've been going to New York at times and seeing one-man shows, and a one-man show is a one-man show. There's nobody else there. There aren't dancing girls, there's no music, there's one guy or one girl singing. Sometimes there's an orchestra, sometimes there's not. Or sometimes it's a stand-up comic, but, do 2 hours. A one-man show is a one-man show. And it's inordinately difficult to amuse. Now listen to me. You hear the silence? It's palpable. I was booked on a tour in Europe, and I finally got to London, the Apollo Theatre in London, 3,500 people, sold out that night, Monday night, at the Apollo. And I slept in because I'm going to work that night. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, I turned on the television set, and what's his name? Armstrong? What's the blonde guy with all that hair? Prime Minister. Boris Johnson. So Boris Johnson on the air saying, "No, I get help wherever you can." As the director said, you never know when somebody's going to fart a good idea. So Boris Johnson is saying, no more than 10 people can congregate. It's COVID. No more than, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, 3,500 people at the Apollo tonight? Will they be there? Will they not be there? What's going on? So they send a car, I get a car, I go to the Apollo Theater, I walk up, and now I'm behind the curtain. I hear a murmur, there are people out there. But there were 3,500 people. Are there going to be 10 people there? Curtain opens up, there's 3,500 people. They all stayed. And I spoke to them like this, you all stayed in view of the fact that the Prime Minister said COVID, and you all, and I'm tears, they're crying, I'm crying. It was one of the great nights of the theater where the actor and the audience, look at this. Do you see what I mean? Do you see, you feel this? You and I are connected now. Just the next moment is very important to continue the connection. So I thought, I can connect in a one-man show, but it's Australia, and if I can't, who'll know? So I went to Perth or some city, and I did a one-man show. People stood up and clapped. Stood up and left. No, they clapped. and I thought, wow, that'll work. And then I went to all the big cities, 6 cities in Australia, and it was successful. Then Canada said, come on tour. So I started in Vancouver, and I went to all the big cities, ended up in Toronto. I think at Massey Hall, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was very prestigious, and I got 3 people applauded me. And then some guy comes up and said, I'm an American producer. We would like you to do the one-man show on Broadway. I said, well, if I'm going to go to Broadway, I've got to rewrite the whole thing and get rid of the guy, the host or whatever. So I rewrote the show and I did it better, and I used props, everything. One-man show. The only thing is, I only had 1 show before the opening night, and I kind of fumbled through that, and now it's opening night. On the Tuesday, Monday night, I say to my wife and a friend of mine who was there, I've got to eat very carefully. I want to be at my best. I mean, opening night, full house. Critics are going to be there. So I eat very carefully. I've forgotten what it was I ate, but whatever it was the wrong thing. Because the next morning, I am poisoned. And I got opening night. And Dr. Oz, who I've been on the show more than once, and befriended me. He came over, and I got injections, and I got fluids, and I went to the hospital, and now I go to the theater. And having this illness inside my body, I was, and I was, and it wasn't pleasant. I couldn't leave the bathroom for more than 5 minutes, and I got to go on stage in a one-man show. Now I go on stage, hello everybody, thank you, and I'm music, they're laughing, and all of a sudden I have to go. And in fact, not only do I have to go, I've got Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, there's been something technical happening. I'll be right back. And I dash upstairs, my wife's with me, and I shower, and I change, and I run back down. Hello, everybody, and I continue the show, and it got standing ovation, and it was very popular. So, I toured the United States and ended up in Hamilton, and I did an afternoon and evening performance of the one-man show, and I filmed it. And that film I've kept. I don't know why. But I've kept the film. I haven't tried to sell it it is now available electronically. There's this new stuff that I barely understand, that if you go to WilliamShatner.com, the one-man show is available electronically. You can buy it, you can own it, but you don't have it in your hand. You have it in wherever you have it. I don't understand. Go to WilliamShatner.com and see the one-man show, be a part of the book, and that's it. My time's up. How wonderful to see everybody. Thank you so much. A pleasure.